Lindiwe Mazibuko right now. She's very busy here this morning and made some time to speak to us at the SABC. Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Just give us the broad strokes quickly of how things stand at the moment. We're almost done.
Yes.
How are you feeling and what are you thinking?
We're feeling really, really upbeat. This has been a fantastic election for us. We've grown by 6 percentage points. And if the numbers on that board hold, it means that we will have grown by more than any other party, including the newcomers like the EFF on the board or who contested the national election. There's also the wonderful fact that we have grown to 59% in the Western Cape, which is a ringing endorsement of the work that we've done in that province under the leadership of the Premier, Helen Zille. We are going to return more MPs than ever to Parliament, and we've become the official opposition in 4 additional provinces, including my home province of KwaZulu-Natal, about which I'm so excited. My provincial leader, Sizwe Mchunu, is now going to be the DA's official opposition leader in the provincial legislature of KZN. So it's been a great election for us, and we're really looking forward to the next 5 years serving the voters who elected us.
On to matters of a little bit of housekeeping, of course. After an election, there's always a bit of housekeeping that must happen. There are a couple of objections pending, I think.
Yes.
Can you just let us into the sort of thought process and where you're going to go with that?
Yes. Well, the biggest story, I think, today has been the question of the ballots that were found in Linwood Park in Pretoria. And what we've done is we have overseen the taking of those ballots back to the voting station and a recount, which actually confirmed that those ballots were already counted. They were just irresponsibly disposed of after the count. So we're satisfied that everything has gone well in that voting district. Of course, there was the concern around Beckersdale, and our Premier candidate, Musi Maimane, went there on election day to observe the situation and to talk to the people there. And there have been a few other problems in the region. So we're busy engaging with the IEC and our PLC representatives about what issues we're going to submit as complaints to the IEC. But I have to say, overall, we're very satisfied with the way that this election has gone. The numbers were very high, the queues were very long, and despite some poorly trained and inefficient IFC officials and some allegations of political impropriety in the provinces, this has been a good election for the IEC overall.
I want to talk about Gauteng a little bit, if you don't mind. Are you a little bit disappointed that you didn't do a little bit better maybe in Gauteng with all the resources that you've spent here and all the effort that you've put into the province? You had things like e-tolls and so forth in your favour, but in final standings it's maybe not what you would have hoped for, I would think.
Well, we've come very close to pulling the ANC below 51%, below 50%, which was our goal. Our goal was to pull the ANC below the majority and enable the opposition to begin talks about forming a coalition government at provincial level. And I think we've come very close to achieving that. Our growth in Gauteng has been very significant, as it has in all the other provinces. And Gauteng, like the Western Cape, has delivered to the DA more than 1 million votes for the first time. Previously, it was under 1 million in both provinces. So no, I would say that Gauteng has been a fantastic success for the DA, and we have a lot to be proud about.
Now the talk, of course, changes to coalition politics and who's going to get into bed with who. I spoke to the EFF a little bit earlier after the announcement that you won't be going into coalitions with them. Of course, the standard response, you can expect what that was. What are your thought process around coalitions at the moment? And I think the question I really want to ask you is, are you worried that the fact that you can't go into coalitions with the EFF on sort of, I think, ethical and intellectual levels, does that weaken your hand in Parliament a little bit?
It's not that we can't, it's that we choose not to go into coalition with them on the basis that we don't think it would be workable. Our first premise is, does a coalition enable us to implement the DA manifesto? And we're not new kids on the block to coalitions. We've been in coalitions where we've been the minority partner and where we've been the majority partner. And our experience has taught us that the best way to deliver effectively to the people and to be able to be accountable for your outcomes is to be a majority partner who is able to implement their manifesto. So even if we were to go into a coalition with the EFF as the majority partner, there's actually no guarantee that they would stick to the deals, that they would abide by the principle of implementing the policies that we had advanced and tempering them with their role in the coalition. It could end up falling to pieces. And the last thing we want, the worst thing that any party can do is to govern and then govern badly. That does tremendous damage to your reputation amongst the voters who simply won't trust you with their votes again. So we're not willing to risk that by going into a coalition with a volatile coalition partner who shares none of our values. What we'd rather do is go into coalition with partners who understand what we're trying to deliver and why, and are willing to work with us to make it happen, with some concessions from us for their policy. But I mean, we can't make a concession to the EFF on policies like nationalisation. It's simply not. It's a no-go. So it's definitely not that we can't, that we're hampered, or it's simply that we choose not to. We prefer to be able to deliver on the promises that we've made.
The parliamentary machine works a little bit differently. In the past, you've had the support of the smaller parties, one would think, and you still have of some of those, although most of them have lost, or some of them have lost a lot of support.
Yeah.
The rise of the EFF in this instance, do you think it weakens your hand as the DA a little bit in order to manoeuvre a little bit better in Parliament with the ANC?
Well, no, the EFF is actually smaller in this election than COPE was in the last election. And what we do in Parliament is actually very different from what we do in government. It's perfectly possible for us to agree on one issue and disagree on another in Parliament, and it doesn't affect our mandate. But when you govern, you're bound together permanently for 5 years. So in Parliament, there's definitely much more room for movement. And if there are issues that we find agreement on, then we'll certainly work together on them. We had that 8-party motion to remove President Zuma from office with political parties who didn't share the same values as us, but agreed with us that President Zuma wasn't fit for purpose. So I don't think it's out of the bounds of reality that such common threads can be found in Parliament. And actually, I'm looking forward to having new political parties, the NFP, the EFF, and Agang in Parliament. It's a pity that the smaller parties, Azapo, the MF, and others have fallen away, but it is a signal from the voters. The voters are saying they don't want small political parties, one-man operations. They want realistically sized opposition parties that can challenge the ANC for power.
Thank you very much for joining us. One thing we will be very sure of in Parliament, the debates will be heated from here on in. It will make for very good television viewing. Thank you very much for joining us. That's the parliamentary leader of the Democratic Alliance, Lindiwe Mazibuko.